All right, and everyone that is just now joining, welcome to the next weekly podcast. I like how I've been doing most of these podcasts every week for at least the past couple of weeks. But anyway, today we are being joined by DC Perspective and another friend of mine, Tetrime. He doesn't have a YouTube channel or any sort of a large social media presence, but again, he is going to be someone that we are going to be having a discussion with. And DC Perspective, I bet a lot of you guys that are joining me just now know DC Perspective. So I appreciate that DC and Tetrime are going to be joining me today. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to Discord, and we're going to unmute myself so we can introduce them. So DC, if you could introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm DC Perspective. I have a YouTube channel. I'm on Twitter at Populist, our major populist. And I make content about anything that I find interesting, from low-ranked politics to bigger themes like the collapse of liberalism. And you can find me at DC Perspective on YouTube.
All right, and Tetrime?
Hello, I'm Tetrime. I am a classical libertarian, and I follow politics on Discord, Reddit, various other sites, and you can find me at TetrimeT on Twitter.
All right, and again, this is mainly just more of a podcast discussion, so it's more just the way I kind of conduct these things is basically it's a roundtable discussion. We have people join us, and then we basically talk about what's going on in the news, and then we get their opinions. And luckily today, we do have a DC Perspective who considers himself a nationalist. And then Tetrime that considers himself a would I say liberal?
Socialist, we'll say socialist or libertarian, whatever one you want.
So socialist libertarian.
Yeah.
All right. So
it's been an anomaly to me, to be honest.
I'm sorry.
It's always been an anomaly to me.
Really?
Yeah, socialist libertarianism.
Do you want to go into that, or do you want to just move on? Because that'll be a topic by itself.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that could be.
Yeah, I can do 30 seconds of it if you want, but that's kind of.
Yeah. I'll give you 30 seconds or a minute or whatever. Go ahead.
Right. Libertarianism was originally a left-wing ideology, and communism or socialism, generally the end goal is to have a stateless monetary society, and stateless basically comes under libertarianism pretty easily. So,
okay,
there you go. I mean, that's the long and short of it.
All right, and DC, did you want to say anything, or you want to go ahead and get into what we were going to talk about?
I guess since he described what he was, I'll describe what I am. I believe in, well, my politics comes down to conservative nationalism, which is, or national conservatism, which is defense of the country, and mainly an ideology that is informed by that which is best for the creation and stabilization of the family structure and the family unit. So I believe that family is the heart of any nation or the heart of any community, and so that's basically what I am.
Okay,
and I'm not. I should say this: I'm not like super pro-capitalist in that regard either. So
okay.
Beast.
So my just since both of y'all listed off your politics, I'll go ahead and list off mine. Basically, my politics kind of revolve around. I mean, I consider myself a populist nationalist. I'm very pro country. I believe that we shouldn't allow other countries to kind of step over us, and I also think that we shouldn't step over other countries. I think a lot of countries should maybe have an equal footing in terms of international politics, but in terms of domestic. I used to lean libertarian in a lot of aspects. I kind of consider myself a libertarian, probably similarly to a lot of different right wingers. But at least since the beginning of 2020, I mean, my views have shifted a little bit further to the right, including on social aspects, but economically very right wing. And I kind of just kind of see pick and choose kind of way at looking at politics. I don't think that I don't think we should. I think identity politics kind of hurts us sometimes. But then at the same time, um, trying to figure out a really good way to say this.
It's kind of necessary, isn't it?
Yeah. Um, I think my whole thing is basically I think that we should look at things just by what do you call it? It's kind of like a
Pragmatic view.
not pragmatic. It's case by it's case by case. It's basically with me, it's a case by case basis. Whatever happens, whatever's coming up, I kind of just form my own opinion instead of just listening to everyone else, and I kind of do my own research, do my own stuff. I'm not that advocated into a lot of different things in economic or even social views. It's just that whenever something basically comes up, I just kind of look at it and say, okay, this is what I think about it, and then that's my opinion on it. So it's more of like a case by case kind of politics. That may change in the future. I'm trying to get a little better on how I sometimes identify issues, and then also holding my own views on a lot of things. But anyway, so just for the live stream, since I talked way too long about that. Basically, today we wanted to talk about a couple of different topics. So the first one that we're going to be talking about is something that you guys have probably heard about in the news lately. And just as a kind of like a forewarning, we're not going to be talking about any of the situations that happened in Atlanta or Colorado.
Yeah.
That's just something that we all agreed that we're not going to be discussing in this live stream today, so we're not going to be talking about that. But what we are going to be talking about is immigration. Immigration is a very controversial topic to a lot of people because it's, on one hand, I've had several discussions about this with Tetrime, that basically there should be ways for people to come into this country, especially if they're wanting to seek asylum. But then on the other side, we see a lot of people basically saying that we shouldn't allow lawbreakers to become citizens, and then that's basically what we're looking at right now, is that there are citizenship bills on the floor of the House of Representatives that are going to award citizenship to hundreds of thousands of young people that were snuck across the U.S. border. And then, at least today, I saw a news conference in which that GOP senators are going to the border to study or see what is going on at the border. And if you don't know what's going on, basically, the Biden administration walked back several Trump policies, and these Republican senators are basically saying because Biden got rid of the stay in Mexico policy, we are looking at an immigration crisis of the Biden administration's making. So I can hand it off to you guys to kind of discuss it. What do you guys think about that whole situation in general, the stay in Mexico policy, illegal immigration? What are your views on that, etc.? DC perspective, I guess I could just hand it off to you first.
All right, dope. My perspective on Biden's handling of immigration is pretty straightforward. I think he's doing a terrible job. I think most of the country is beginning to agree with me too. I think most of the country already agrees with me. Not that I care what most people think, but I think it is indicative, or it shows that Biden's doing a terrible job. The immigration it's a crisis at this point. And yeah, Trump wasn't the best, and immigration under Trump wasn't the best, but it was better than it is now, and that is because of the policies that Trump did have in place, like stay in Mexico actually worked, building the wall and keeping the gates that are on the wall closed. That actually is important. That's a part that people tend to forget about, is that Biden came into office and opened the gates. There are videos of, because we have two walls and kind of a gap between them, maybe, and so that you can get in between the two walls, and there's gates on one side of the wall, and they open the gates and leave them open, which is irresponsible in my opinion. And I think that national borders are vital to ensure the sovereignty of a nation and the sovereignty of a people, and it's necessary. What Biden's doing is dissolving national unity even more. And you're seeing the polls now show that amnesty, even among very Democrat communities, I should say, amnesty is becoming less popular. The border crisis is becoming a bigger issue. People are unhappy. I'm unhappy. Biden, this is where he's least approved on. And so I think you can just, even through all of the media bias, which there is inherently a lot of media bias, people are realizing, people are noticing it's kind of hard to cover up because it is so bad, these immigration policies. That's what I think. At a broader scale, though, talking about in general, I already mentioned how I think borders are necessary. I believe in the idea of immigration moratoriums, stopping, which is what we did in the early in the early foundation and inception of this country, and all the way until the 1960s, we had waves of immigration coming in from Germany and Ireland and places like this, and then they would come in waves, and then it would stop for a couple of years. These people would assimilate into the communities, and then another wave would come. And I think that that is ideal because it allows for assimilation and for communities to grow and bond in a communitarian style so that you can actually establish roots and a nation and a people. And I think that's vital in immigration. And I think we're not getting that out of the current system we have now. So I think that there needs to be a fundamental changing.
All right.
All right, and Tetrime, you want to go ahead and respond to that, or just kind of give your views?
I'll just kind of give my views generally. So the way I see it is that immigration is an important part of any economy, and Biden has been given kind of a shit hand, a bad hand, and he's been dealt. I mean, Trump's policies were honestly disastrous. The border camps at the border were really not humanitarian in any way. Biden has had to fix that to some degree. They're very far from perfect. The problem I see is that this is all spun as a Republican talking point because, like to quote Border Patrol agent, there's no crisis. The only crisis is the children, which is what was currently trying to deal with. They're trying to deal with. In 2000, there was 9,000 agents and 130,000 migrants a month, and now there is nearly half that amount of migrants, and the amount of Border Patrol agents has doubled. So it's kind of, compared to 2000, we're seeing like a quarter of the impact of migrants.
Documented migrants?
Undocumented immigrants have.
So hold on. If they're undocumented, how are you documenting them? How are you keeping numbers?
Detained. This is the amount detained.
Oh, detained. Okay.
Yeah.
What about those that aren't being detained?
Well, the ones that aren't being detained, well, they're kind of hard to measure. Kind of hard to measure for either way.
Right.
You can't make a point on that because there's lack of data.
Okay.
Sure. So the way I see it is, there's a lot of really crappy stuff happening in Central and Southern America, and generally those people come north for a better life. Biden, because of there has been a slight increase in numbers at the border because Biden isn't Trump and he's more open to immigration. So people see this as a chance to have that new life, so they come north. I'm sympathetic to that. Obviously, you can't open the border. Obviously, there still has to be a process for citizenship and there has to be a process for entering the country. That's fine. The problem comes whenever it's not that bad, and it's just spun as Biden being out of control for some reason. And honestly, I just think it's dishonest.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's fair. The cable shows, Fox News alike, as well as MSNBC, CNN, are losing a lot of viewers after Trump is gone. The excitement has calmed down after the Stop the Steal stuff and everything, and so they're trying desperately to grab onto anything to make it a crisis to keep that viewership up. New York Times subscriptions are down 17% over the last quarter or whatever. And so, that's definitely true. The media is playing this up. but I don't think that means that we should look away from it. And the person that you quoted saying that there's no crisis, that's actually an appointed position. That's an official, a DHS secretary who was appointed by Biden, not an actual border security.
No. I'll give you the quote in Discord.
Okay. Good. So I guess I agree in that term or in that sense. And as for like this idea that we can only count the ones that were obtained, I don't think that's necessarily fair because I can observe with my own eyes. And I mean, Paul Gosar, who is a representative from Arizona's, I think second or something, a district in Arizona, he was down at the border the other day, and he witnessed and they documented and they recorded it. A mom and her kid or something walking across the border and just going on their merry way in Arizona. Just so I think there's a lot of people slipping through the cracks here that aren't being documented, that are getting through. And I like I said, it is a humanitarian crisis, as you've said. And sure, it's a problem, but this idea that Biden was dealt a bad hand, which was your whole thesis at the beginning. Sure, maybe it was a bad hand, but Trump also had that bad hand, and he was dealing with it much better than Biden was.
In what way?
So I don't know.
Like which way was Trump? Like,
I will say, I'll interject here. I mean, this bad hand has basically been passed down ever since President Reagan.
Yeah, I'm not saying Trump got dealt a good hand by Obama. I'm saying it's the whole process is awful.
No, I wasn't even saying Obama. Like, I mean, this immigration crisis has been like prevalent since Reagan.
Yeah, it's not it's a generation thing. It's not a singular problem.
Right. I mean that. You were going to say something. I'm sorry. Did you ask a question or? I'm blanking. No.
Continue.
Oh, how was it? How did Trump do better? Is what you asked?
Sure.
Okay.
I asked that.
Well, there were less kids in camps actually under the Trump administration overall. There were, and not that I even care if your mom and dad go to jail. What are we going to do with the kids? Throw them out to the coyotes? No.
The camps aren't jail. The camps are a holding facility. Which
right. But when your parents are picked up for illegally crossing the border, they are detained and held in these facilities, and they separate the families because that's what you do when you.
How do you know the parents were? Okay, right. Here's a question for you. How do you know the parents were illegally crossing the border?
Because there's like very few ways to legally cross the border.
Oh no. Okay. Well, I just kind of got this is PG the other day, but I've done a little bit more research since on the asylum process in the US. Okay. What is your how do you think the asylum process works?
Well, you appeal for asylum. I don't know. You appeal for asylum.
Well, yeah, but how would you do that? If you're a poor Mexican person and the gang's after you, what do? You want to go into the US to appeal for asylum. How do you go about that?
Well, firstly, I think that you go to the US and then you go to an asylum court.
Well, yeah, but how do you go to the US?
You go to the US. How is that? I mean, you can illegally cross the border. It's still illegal. You don't
have a visa. How are you getting into the US?
One of the ways that they actually did that in the previous administration, they called it. I mean that's kind of one of the policies that is being said led to this was the stay in Mexico policy. The stay in Mexico policy was essentially a policy that Trump created back in 2017, 2018. I think it was 2017. And the stay in Mexico policy was an asylum policy. And basically an immigrant that wanted to come to the United States and seek asylum could go into a U.S. consulate, which is all over Mexico. They could go into a U.S. consulate and then they could apply for asylum in that consulate. And then their case would be reviewed by the United States, and then they would be accepted or they would be denied.
Sure. I've looked up the current policy since. The current policy is that if you walk into America over the border, undocumented, and you have a year to declare yourself as an asylum seeker. So if you don't declare your asylum after that year, you are an illegal immigrant. And if you don't declare your asylum after that year, you are an illegal immigrant. And if you don't declare your asylum after that year, you are an illegal immigrant. So if you don't declare your asylum after that year, you are an illegal immigrant. And if you don't declare your asylum after that year, you are an illegal immigrant. So if you don't declare your asylum after that year, you are an illegal immigrant. but for the most parts, like again, illegal immigrants aren't caught at the border. They aren't illegal yet. They're only illegal once they have been in the US for a year. So it's kind of the whole ICE thing is kind of dishonest because ICE is kind of operating against international law to a certain degree and not letting these people apply for asylum. And to another degree, like most illegal immigrants in the US are just overstayed their visas. Like most of them aren't coming over the border illegally, as you said. They're staying here, which
Right.
I agree is a problem. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, they are committing crimes by crossing the border. It's a misdemeanor, according to the Nationality Act of 1965. I believe it's illegal. So that's a criminal act. And I think the real solution is just not offering asylum. That's how you get these people.
No, you have to offer asylum, but you can deny it. That's fine. So it says the U.S. when they wrote the international law.
Yeah, I'm saying they should change the law. I don't care. International law doesn't affect us. I don't care.
Well, that's fine. It's not whenever you say illegal and you're talking about illegal things, and whenever I say this is the current law, and then you saying I don't care about the law, it kind of comes across strange to me that you're like, well, this is the law, they should follow it, and then when I say, well, no, the law is a different thing.
Oh, the international law, I don't care about, and I'm saying that they should change the law.
The U.S. follows and signs, and
yeah, I'm saying that international law doesn't hold prevalence over national law.
The thing about international law is basically like because if you're saying that, because the position it looks like that you're taking is that international law is basically saying that it takes precedence over national law. So I mean, if that was the case, I mean, there would be a lot of things that would be being prosecuted, but they never got prosecuted. I mean, with international law, yeah, they basically say international law is usually seen as kind of like a guideline, but no country usually takes that as like actual like solid codified law.
Sure.
Except whenever it comes to things like war.
The problem is like saying international law is kind of it's kind of a misdemeanor on my part. It is the U.S. law. The U.S. law has this is how you go. This is how you apply for asylum. This is what you do. It's just I don't see the difference really. Like,
but the U.S. law also says don't cross the border.
The U.S. law says is crossing the border is a misdemeanor. It doesn't mean well, for one, a misdemeanor doesn't get you locked up, and a misdemeanor doesn't deny you citizenship. You can still get citizenship if you have committed a misdemeanor.
Right, but I think the actual solution is stop. Like I said, and this is where we might want to move on.
Why do you want that? Why do you want to stop immigration? Like at all? Like this seems to be your position.
Because it's rapidly changing the landscape of the country, and I think any rapid change. I'm very Burkean in this way. I think that rapid change is bad for anything, any instability.
Do you have anything to back that up? That's all. Like, in what ways?
I have my own two eyes.
That's useless. Come on.
How is that useless? What?
I mean, where do you live?
What do you mean? Hold on. Look, here's the problem. Okay. You want math, you want science, you want data. I can look around at the history of the United States and realize that as a social society, we have greatly devalued what life means, what family means, what the church means, what the state is. Our civic responsibilities have fallen apart since the inception of since the inception of the laws that allow people that are not from this country, that have no roots in this country, to come here and settle. And it's devaluing society. It doesn't take a Harvard study to realize this stuff. It's quite apparent.
Well, then, if it's that apparent, can I have an example, please?
Yeah, sure. Suicide rates. There's a way. Lack of filling of civic duties. There's that's pretty normal. Oh, that's pretty observable.
Yeah, sure. Suicide rates have a lot of explanations, though.
Yeah.
Immigrants.
Okay. Yeah. No, I agree. I guess jobs being shipped away and jobs being taken, agricultural jobs, minimum wage, decreasing the value of work, loads of stuff that is underlined, and also you can.
Immigration doesn't hurt wages.
Sorry, am I cutting out?
No, you're fine.
Am I cutting out? All right,
Somewhat, yeah,
sounds robotic.
yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to figure that out too. I will say, uh, let's. It seemed like y'all were getting a little
Yeah.
intense there, but
Well,
Well, this guy's data cucking. I guess I should say. I don't know if
I
I don't know.
don't like.
Yeah, I'm just
Sorry.
messing.
that's actually what I was gonna. That's actually where I was gonna interject that. I mean, basically what we're looking at right here is basically like globalism versus nationalism, and then data, and then basically I wouldn't say moral, but it's kind of more of like a principle. That's it seems something like that, and in some ways, they're that's where a lot of people like disagree on now, because I know a lot of people like Tetrime that basically say like, like, well, all these studies say this, and then DC is basically saying, well, like, if you have a lot of immigration coming in at one time, then that's going to cause instability. And on one hand, I mean, I know U.S. history, and I in a couple of ways, I mean, I can kind of see where he's coming from with that. And I mean, that's one of the issues that we have in this current day and age, where we can't really agree on a lot of things, where it's always principle versus studies.
May I say something else too? And
Sure.
I mean, if you want to, you don't have to because this is a gotcha. But you can Google, "Can men get pregnant?" on Google right now, and it will say yes. Obviously, it's impossible.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm saying that the science is as corrupted as the politicians, which are hella corrupt. So I think that, and also, I mean, the Heritage Foundation, they go out and admit that immigration lowers wages. I mean, they admit it, and they love it too, because the top 1%,
The Heritage Foundation is a right-wing think tank.
the elite. Yeah, I know. No, but they want immigration. They want immigration. I hate the Heritage Foundation. It doesn't.
So-
they're not right.
Okay.
They're libertarian.
Let
me finish. And I guess what I wanted to say was the top 1%, the elites, the top 10%, whatever it is, the Beltway, the city elites, the boogeymen or whatever. They use immigrant labor. They import immigrants. They have them as maids. They have them as their workers in the farms. They have them as agriculture hands, and they exploit their labor. So I don't know about you, but as far as I can tell, I sound more like a communist than you do right now, because I'm actually caring about the labor of the American people. I care about the labor. I care about the wages. I care about the people being exploited. It's not right. They should make Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala a better place. That's what we should be doing. Not coming here, not disrupting Americanism, but building up their own.
Sure. Okay, full response then. So, just to start on a few things, we're not going to get into trans rights, but we're going to ignore that one. There's a paper talking about how wages aren't really affected by immigration.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have a limited understanding of economics, which is completely fair. It's a difficult subject, but you have to understand that labour is a commodity, and commodities are good for a country to have. So if you bring labour into a country, those people are earning a wage. I don't like illegal immigrants coming in because they don't get a minimum wage, they don't get rights, and that can be harmful to them. But the labour coming into the country adds value to that country because they now have more workers and they have more people buying things, and the cycle continues. The money flows faster. So I don't really understand you not wanting more labour in the country. China's beating us not us, the US for a reason, because they have more labour, they have more power to do things in the economy. Well, okay, that's kind of wrong, but the point is, China does have a superior system for exploiting their workers. The US has rights for their workers, and I agree that the US is better for their workers in that respect, but it's always better to have more labour. However, for for Central and Southern America and why that's a problem. I agree that those countries should be improved, and I think the way to improve that is to immediately stop the drug war, which has caused massive devastation and is honestly responsible for most.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Drug war conversation for another time at the moment, I think. But what's most interesting to me is this idea that I don't understand economics. There's a little thing called supply and demand. I can't tell you the exact percent because it's so messed up at the moment. The way we measure unemployment, it's not fair. The way Reagan changed it, Bill Clinton changed it to make it look more favorable.
Use 6 in 5 different ways.
Exactly. So unemployment right now is probably double digits, mid-teens, low teens, probably. So we have enough workers. They're just not working. We have enough workers. They're just not working. This Matt Yglesias idea of we need a population of 1 billion people to compete with China is wrong. Actually, that's not true at all. Especially in the modern world where manufacturing is, and this is a stat you can look at to reaffirm the idea of this, is that while production has gone up, wages have not increased. And productivity has gone up, but labor has not increased. In fact, I think it's decreased. So you can see that more workers does not equate more productivity. It's actually kind of the opposite at this point.
Sure.
But my point is, we shouldn't be worrying about this commodity of labor, importing new labor, when we have enough labor here in America as it is, people unemployed on welfare, which, I'm pro welfare to an extent. I think that it is the duty of a nation to take care of their widows and downtrodden. But at a point where we have young, able-bodied people on welfare, it's bad. It's bad for the economy. It's bad for the country, and it creates situations like this where you're saying, well, those people shouldn't have to work. We should just import new immigrants from the third world and have them work for us, and that's cool. I don't think it's cool.
Under general circumstances, I would stick by my point. For COVID, obviously, there was increased unemployment, and the solution to that, I think this can transition if you wanted to, PG, is a jobs program, like massive investment in the economy to start it back up, like the New Deal, possibly a Green New Deal. That's not happening though because it likes that, apparently. Yeah. So again, I agree that right now unemployment is awful. So yeah, jobs program. I think that like the US could be.
I'm sorry. What are you saying? What is that?
US,
no, the program. What was the program? Jobs program.
A jobs program.
Okay. Sorry, I couldn't understand the J.
Which speaking of a jobs program, we do actually have that being proposed by the Biden administration. They're basically proposing to create a $3 to $4 trillion jobs plan that would, it's basically the Green New Deal. From what I'm looking at, it's a massive investment in infrastructure. It's a massive investment into clean energy. It's basically sounds like the Green New Deal right now without even them saying it's the Green New Deal.
Yeah.
DC, what do you think about a jobs program? Do you is that a good idea? Is that a bad idea?
No, it depends what the jobs are. Really, if the jobs are valuable, if the jobs are needed, if the jobs are demanded by the market, and actually produce something that is worth it, then yeah. But I actually am a big fan of jobs programs like Eisenhower had, like FDR had, and especially ones that appeal to young men that at this current moment are feeling disenfranchised by the economy, young people that feel disenfranchised by the way that society is currently set up. A jobs program that produces solar panels or nuclear energy or windmills or better infrastructure, high-speed rail, that would be amazing. I am a fan of that. So I don't think we have any disagreement here, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fine then. Best thing you said. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, at least there's no disagreement there. I mean, I actually don't even disagree because I mean, clean energy sounds amazing in my opinion, but as long as they kind of realize that like nuclear power is basically going to be the way that we're going to be able to get out of this mess. Like if they
Well,
want to,
I'm reading the Biden website right now. Biden will support research agenda on nuclear energy, ranging from cost to safety to waste disposal systems. And that's really the biggest problem with nuclear energy is its waste. It's a problem. So if we could figure out how to dispose of nuclear waste adequately, then it would not have really any problems other than the slight concern of
Even the nuclear
meltdown.
we
waste is a
basically,
very
I'll go ahead and say what I was going to say. We basically, I mean, France basically already solved that problem. That's the thing about them is that France has solved that nuclear waste problem. They basically recycle it because the way a nuclear reactor works is that it only uses 3% of the uranium 235 that they stick inside of the reactor of these massive control rods, and they use 3% of the uranium inside of it. But with
well.
in France, they basically found out a way that they can recycle another like 50% of that uranium 235 inside of that control rod and then just continue to reuse it until it's completely depleted of uranium.
Well, yeah, sure. It'll eventually be completely useless though and still radioactive, which is the main problem. Like you can reuse it and you'll get diminishing returns, but eventually you'll still have the same amount of waste at the end of it, which is better than nothing, but it's not 100% just yet.
By the way, I just wanted to let you guys know. I don't know if you guys were reading chat. I did fix that audio issue where it was sounding like it was sounding robotic. So you guys' voice should sound just as they should. So I fixed that problem.
Good. Glad to hear that.
But let me go ahead.
Yeah, jobs program is good. Places like China, I don't want what China does. China is basically building ghost cities.
Oh, of course. Yeah, China's awful.
Yeah, China's building ghost cities, just high rises for the sake of building high rises. Nobody lives in them, just to employ people. It's basically a fake, just a fake way to get paid, fake money that doesn't mean anything. And I don't want to say that China is a paper tiger because they're not, but stuff like that isn't actually good or beneficial. It creates the illusion of benefit, and also China lies about their numbers all the time. Their GDP, they exaggerate a lot of stuff. Not to downplay China, they're still a huge threat. I'm actually probably more hawkish on China than most of my conservative counterparts.
I actually agree with that. I really do not like war. I just cannot do that. I lost a family member in the war in Iraq, so that hits personal. But if there's anything that I can absolutely say, like, yeah, we need to like take them on like immediately in every single aspect, I would absolutely say China, because China is one of the biggest geopolitical, economic, and military threats of our time right now.
Sure.
Yeah. I think most people agree on this.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing about that is,
probably have different ideas of how to go about handling China, though.
Yeah.
I'm probably not even that badly. Just economic, not warfare, but economic incentives through different things, getting the Uyghur camps, get that sorted. Just lots of stuff like that. Why?
I mean, like, I don't want to sound mean.
No, say it.
But I'm trying to tactfully find a way to say this while No, of course not. I don't care. I don't want to excuse the actions of China, but I want to explain my position, which is like, what are we going to do? What do you want to do about the Uyghur camps?
Oh, okay. If you're asking, then China is kind of, we can't invade them like to stop the Holocaust kind of shit. So it's kind of economic, has economic incentives, which is difficult to do with China.
Yeah, yeah.
So it has to be mass reported on. It has to be get to the point where obviously it's honestly it's a really it'll be incredibly difficult to do anything on that point because you have to get the UN to basically turn on them on the one point, and the UN will ask for a lot more concessions before they ask for the Uyghurs, which is never going to happen.
Right. So, and China's immune to any liberal argument that we make because they don't believe in that stuff. Their culture is
state capitalist.
Well, that economic system, but their culture is so different from ours. They don't care. I mean, there's 1 billion people there, and so the government of China is very unconcerned with the idea of killing 500,000 people just to get ahead a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I would not pass them to do that.
No, I've been to Beijing and I've never seen such disregard for life.
Yeah, right, and I think that's what happens in a 1 billion plus people society. Honestly, I think that's a byproduct of that. To be honest, if you want to get more metaphysical, but I think that discussing the Uyghur thing, the Uyghur genocide in China to me feels kind of like a media sensational hit piece. Not because it's not happening, not because it's not real. It is real and it is a problem. But it's like beating the war drums, trying to get people to be anti-China in disingenuous ways. Like, oh, we need to get rid of the Uyghur camps. But in reality, what we need to do first, before we can even start talking about that, is further our own political stability and our own economic stability, grow economically, and get more soft power. Because right now, America has a lot of hard power, but we don't have financial leverage. We don't have
China is superb at soft power.
Right, exactly. We're on the same page. Sure. And I think that we'll start to disagree when we talk about how to get more soft power. Actually, because I think that one of the first things to do is to shut down the border. Is create.
I don't see how that helps with China at all.
Well, because it has to do with stabilizing the country as a whole. I was just
in what ways is it destabilized though? I can't get to this with you. It just
in what ways is the country destabilized?
Yeah, like the country
you have two groups of people coming to the country that don't have the same culture as the people.
In what ways does the culture matter if you're on economic issues? The culture
on economic issues, parallel societies. I mean, look at what Denmark's doing. Denmark is creating a system now where they are not allowing their ghettos, which is a legal term, not a derogatory term. In Denmark, it's a legal term. I'm not sure if it is in Ireland, but here in America, it's derogatory.
No, I get it.
Yeah, their ghettos are no longer going to be allowed to be more than 30% foreign because they're concerned of the creation of parallel societies where Muslim immigrants come in and create societies that where every institution, schools, bakeries, shops, gyms, everything is ran by a Muslim. They all practice Muslim beliefs that they carry over from Syria or wherever they're migrating from, and creates a disconnect in politics and religion, in the way people think and the way people act. It creates a two gears in the system that is governance that smash up against each other and limit the ability of the country from operating as a oiled machine. The same thing's happening here in America. We're having Compton now is majority Hispanic. They speak Spanish. They're Catholic. They're Spanish Catholics.
Mm-hmm. Back in the 90s, I mean, that was like a heavily African American community.
Right. They're what was I saying? They're Catholic. They speak Spanish. They don't have the same traditions, cultures, and like the same thing. It creates that it throws a wrench in the machine. Those two gears jam up against each other, not able to operate. I think that cultural homogeneity is vital, and I think that's what we saw in the 18th, 19th, 20th centuries. That's why I said at the beginning of the debate, we need it to come in waves. Stop, assimilate, wave, stop, assimilate. It's the best solution. So I think that we need to stop. We need to slow down. We've doubled the population of America in 60 years. Or I think we've increased it.
Right. Okay.
way too much, 1/3 or something. I can't remember, but I think that that's a problem.
And that's a point
Right,
that
okay.
I've heard from a lot of people on the right is basically, it's basically you're not anti-immigration. It's not about like, stopping from people from coming into this country forever. It's basically like, basically exactly what DC said. It's like stop, assimilate, stop, assimilate, stop, assimilate.
Well, that wasn't the idea at the time. Like, no one was saying to the Italians or the Irish, "Oh, well, okay, one of you at a time, and then we assimilate you, and then we'll get the next ones." No, like that was never the policy. It's just
Yeah,
but you're looking at.
Yeah, that was the natural order of things, and it worked.
Oh, well, they would have disagreed with you at the time, but sure.
Wait, why?
Because at the time,
well, they don't have the hindsight that we have. Firstly.
Well, yeah, and I'm saying the hindsight applies now. Why can't this be the Hispanic wave coming in?
Because the Hispanic wave has been coming in for 60 years. That's not a wave. That's a tsunami.
Yeah, the Irish didn't come over in one day.
No, I know, but they didn't span. We didn't double the population of America with Irishmen and Eastern Europeans in 60 years.
Well, not 60 years. The American population, if it has doubled, it's because of the Industrial Revolution. And it's definitely not because of Hispanic people. But
no,
sure.
we've been admitting 1 million immigrants, half of the world's immigrant population in America since 1965. That's 60 million people. That is, I think at the time in 1965, the American population was like 180 million. We've doubled the population, half of that doubling. So I guess a quarter increase is the immigrant population, which is huge. That's huge. The societal impacts are huge.
America is the country of immigrants, but I'm just going to have to push back because
that's not true.
That's not like the aesthetic of America.
That's not the aesthetic of America. That's the aesthetic of the think tanks on Washington. That's the aesthetic of Disney Channel.
All right. Okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Look, that's fine. Okay. Look, I'm going to say a few things and then we can move on. But so the way I see this is all I'm hearing from you is a lot of, well, this hurts this community in this way that I can't really explain. Oh, the American dream. Oh, the humanity. Okay. I want to see evidence. Okay, no, fine. I hear you talking a lot about how this hurts the society of America,
right,
and how it hurts the culture and the traditions. I don't particularly care about tradition. Tradition for tradition's sake isn't really a great ideal to me. But sure. Here's a massive study showing how diversity does not hurt social cohesion. I can provide dozens of these if you want. But
in the Discord,
in the YouTube, but I'll put in the Discord too.
Okay.
It's a massive 90-study meta-analysis of social cohesion. Lots of variables, lots of sample sizes. So that's always a fun one. My point is, it's in the Discord.
All right.
Okay. My point is, well, it's a fact over feelings matter. I say, here's studies showing this doesn't really hurt America as a country. Then you say, well, that's not my idea of what happens. And then I say that doesn't particularly matter. Then you say, well, it does matter because it's hurting our traditions and our culture. And I don't see how that matters whenever you can't prove it. You can't say anything to me like, oh, here's this clear-cut example. Oh, here's 10,000 suicides.
You want a clear-cut example? There was a shooting the other day. In Boulder, Colorado, done by an immigrant from Syria, a Muslim, killed 10 people in a Jewish kosher supermarket. Okay,
sure.
So there's a direct impact of immigration. There's a direct impact. Stuff like this happens, man.
Is that confirmed that it was a kosher supermarket?
We agreed not to talk about that. We agreed not to talk about that because
we agreed not to talk about that information is known. We agreed not to talk about the social ramifications, gun control, and the idea of the shooting in general.
Well, sure, we're not talking about social.
There's a right. That's what we're not. You're correct. Thank you for reaffirming what I said. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
For that, I would just say that right-wing violence takes up the majority of violence in the country.
That's not
And
true. Come on, give me a break, man. 31 people died at BLM riots. Give me a break. Come on, that's
FBI
another FBI stats. You want FBI stats? We can get into FBI stats, but I'll get banned from YouTube for repeating them. Okay. So firstly, and secondly, let's talk about this. Secondly, FBI stats are bogus. FBI stats are enforced by the same think tanks, the CSIS. These people say right wing terrorism. Right wing terrorism is the biggest threat, and then they ignore Antifa, and then they ignore BLM. They don't count those as political. They don't count it as terrorism. They're looking at the wrong data sets. They're interpreting the data incorrectly. It's plain to see. 31 people. David Dorn. Police officers, people dying, Antifa, courthouses being set on fire, jobs being destroyed. You want to talk about terrorism? It's left-wing terrorism that's the problem, not right-wing terrorism.
Sorry.
I would love to see a study. Dude, open your eyes, man. I don't know if you pay attention to American politics. Look over the last summer. Look at the last year, dude. Look at the last year. Look at the last year. I dare you. Look at the last year of American politics and see this nation ablaze, from Minneapolis to San Francisco to my hometown. Had a riot that got violent where they set a courthouse on fire, or not a courthouse, they set a marketplace on fire. Okay, so you want to talk about left-wing terrorism? That's left-wing terrorism. So you want to see a study? Come on, give me a break. Study.
So, I'll interject right here. See, the thing about that is like, because both sides are kind of valid, because there is a threat about right-wing terrorism, and then there is a threat of left-wing terrorism. But for some reason, a lot of people do want to kind of like center on the fact about right-wing terrorism, mainly because of Donald Trump. It's basically just been like, ever since Donald Trump did get into office. I'm not saying that he was basically like the godsend that we all needed and that we all wanted. But it's basically just been some sort of like anti-Trump narrative, and then every single time something happens, they want to kind of like point in a direction of like, this is because of Republicans, or because of right wingers, or nationalists, or populists, or something like that.
Well, sure, we can take politics out and just say that most terrorist attacks in the US are caused by white people and not immigrants. I think we can agree that pretty easily.
I saw something about it earlier. I'm gonna grab it.
I'm not sure what it means by terrorist attacks. I haven't looked at that data, but I know that 71% of all mass shootings that have taken place over the last year, I think, have been perpetrated by blacks. So you brought up that. So.
According to Statista, and I found this on Twitter, mass shooters since 1982 by ethnicity: 55% white, 17% black, 8% Latino, 7% Asian, 12% other, and 2% Native. So whites are in the majority, but they're not like in the super majority.
Well, no, yeah, you're right, technically, but adjust for population. I'm going to say it, despite making up 13% of the population, African Americans commit, 17% of the mass shootings?
I heard 13% of the population. I was like, hang on, this is a live stream, but you're good.
Well, to be fair, the 50% of the violent crime thing is true, it just doesn't account for lots. But we'll not get into that, just so we don't get politics kicked.
Just because you're going to...
Someone will say the wrong thing.
Because I'm right.
Oh, I mean, you are correct.
Thank you. Someone clip that.
Oh, if you find a left winger saying that 13% that black people don't commit more crime, then they are not familiar with the statistics. However, it doesn't account for sociological issues. Sure. That's the academic position on it.
I think mainly why they never really want to look at those kinds of statistics is because they feel like it puts like a unjust target on the backs of people, and see, that's the thing, is that people who can read statistics like are not saying that a certain race is more likely to do it just because of their race. It's that statistically, that's basically what we're looking at. It's the average. Like there's nothing racist about it. But I mean, if you kind of like bend it into your own narrative and say like, oh well, that means that these kinds of people are dangerous. No, that's absolutely wrong. But it's because, and that's the thing about what they're doing right now, is that some people, and that's what DC was kind of talking about earlier, is that these think tanks that you were talking about all these statistics earlier, those think tanks are literally bending the statistics to fit the narrative of what we're looking at right now, because they don't want to look at a statistic, say 13% commits this amount of a certain percent commits this percentage of the crime, and then if it's not white people, then they feel like that's going to put a target on the back of someone else. But then you just have people who basically just don't want to read the statistics and then just want to go off of their own narrative.
All right. What are we talking about now? Do you want to change the subject, or do you want to continue on this? Because I'm happy to.
I don't care.
AJ, do you want to direct this?
Just so I could get this in. For chat, basically, I mean, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, any topics that you guys do want to talk about, do feel free to do that. We're just basically picking several different topics and then just kind of talking about, again, whatever is in the news.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to clarify that, like, I know that I've talked a lot about mass shootings, school shootings in the past. It's like how they define what a school shooting is, how you define what a mass shooting is. I know school shootings are defined as any gunshots fired within or at the parameter of the school or whatever, or the premises of the school, I should say. So if someone shoots a window out of a gymnasium, even if the school is closed and there's only like one faculty member there, they count it as a school shooting.
Yeah. I hate that. Yeah. I hate that.
Like, so that's one example of data set bias.
Yeah,
that I'm talking about.
I can't relate. Don't think we've ever had a school shooting here. But
yeah, I'm sure you haven't.
There was
you've had a lot more car bombings though.
I'm not denying that. That's true.
The thing about data bias is that, I mean, there was like a CNN map basically showing all of these school shootings, and they said that like there's been one school shooting like every day for the past year, and they counted, or not the past year, for the past like month or something like that, and they counted they count the discharge of a BB gun on a school parking lot as a shooting.
Oh, that's awful. That's bullshit. Like,
yeah,
I will tell you.
But that's the thing, is that they basically want to get as many statistics as they can, and then just throw it in and say like, and then basically just drum up some sort of issue that's going on. Which because it's not discounting the issue, but it's basically like adding more bullshit to the keg.
The problem is with that, like, I have to see to what extent that even affected it. Like, even assuming that was all true, which I'm happy to assume it is, like, we can't tell unless we see like exactly how much that affects the data, because the data is pretty overwhelmingly in favor of it being white men who are doing most mass shootings, especially school shootings.
Yeah, sure, but you would expect in a country of mostly white people that white people would be doing most of the shootings, but that's
sure,
and that's true, and that's true, and we agree they do 55%. That's the stat we'll agree on, just for the sake of argument, though. Okay. I don't know the context of the data, but still, they do less than their percent of the population, and I'm not saying that that's because they're white. Social aspects affect it. Economics, socioeconomics, whatever people say, affect that. Okay, so I'm not saying don't get it twisted.
No problem.
But so I think we agree. I'm just saying that, like, it's not, the white men are not the biggest terrorist threat, and then right men are certainly not the biggest terrorist threat.
Sure. So just to ask, you agree that white people are doing this at all
Sorry,
Okay.
you cut out there for me.
You agree that this 55% of these are white people? Yes, that's fine.
Of the mass shootings, yeah, sure, that's the stat that I'm looking at
So
too.
what I'm not understanding is why don't we kick out all the white people crimes?
I'm
Or
not.
why don't we
Pro-
stop?
I'm not. I'm. That's what. What are you saying? Of course, don't do
Because
that.
you know,
I'm not even.
you're
I'm
saying,
not even saying kick out old criminals.
what you're saying is, well, there was a mass shooting and he was a Muslim and he was brown, so obviously we shouldn't let the brown Muslims in.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah.
So why don't we apply to white people? White people commit the crimes. Why aren't we?
Because
Why
firstly,
don't we throw them out? Why don't you deport them?
that's we're never going. I mean, if we do that, then everybody will be gone. The country will be gone because people do bad things. Every type of person does bad things. The point is. Let me finish. The point is that person is related to and we're gonna fight about this too. Is related to a religious group that is in many cases extreme. They believe extreme things, and we had the option, the ability to stop him from coming here, and we didn't. And this is the consequence of that.
So what about the extreme religious organizations are currently on watch lists?
Which ones?
Well, the KKK, or I don't have the.
Did you say that the KKK is a religious organization?
Well, offshoots of it are. I don't currently have this on hand, but I don't know.
When was the last KKK terrorist attack? When did they commit terror laws?
I'm not saying that happened. What I'm saying is okay. Your logic can be applied in a lot of different ways, and then it just sounds really awful to me.
Also because okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're correlating them being brown to them committing the terrorist attack.
No.
Okay.
I'm correlating them being Muslim and coming from currently Muslim, and him coming from a war-ridden country.
Sorry, you cut out for a second.
He said war-ridden country.
Okay. Sure. I mean, so you're going to take that and you're going to say, right, we should.
Do crime, ooh, black man.
You're cutting out. Wait, you're robot voicing on me. I can't hear anything. I'm going to leave the call and come back in because it's not working.
No, it's my fault.
Yeah, I can hear it too.
Yeah, my fault. It's not yours.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. DC, are you there?
Here, I have connection though.
All right.
I always love internet lag.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, am I back? I'm probably back now.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Okay. I'm gonna calm down.
Sure.
I'm gonna. Okay.
Take
let's
a
see.
moment.
Deep breath.
What were we talking about? We were talking. Oh yeah, you were accusing me of being a racist.
Well, I wasn't actually, but I could get to that if you want.
No, I don't want to.
I will say, let's keep the passive aggressiveness out.
Yeah, sure. I'll calm down.
Okay. I would say that there is a correlation between bringing people from the third world that believe in what could be sometimes dangerous ideologies here is somewhat dangerous. Yeah, there is a danger to that. There is a I just, the way I look at it is a cost analysis way, I guess, of looking at it, in that what's the point of taking the chance? And, I think that greatness can come from migrants as well, sure, but I think that they should prove themselves at their home before. Like Steve Jobs, his dad was a Syrian immigrant as well. Great, sweet. But, I don't think we need it here per se.
Well, then that's just, we're not going to disagree.
Right, exactly. We do disagree. And you ask me, why don't we just kick out, people with dangerous ideologies?
That was a joke. But...
Oh, okay. Well, I do want to say, well, it's because they're born here and they have constitutional rights that non-citizens don't have.
So what if a Muslim a second generation Muslim from Iraq or something?
Yeah, we can't kick them out.
No, okay, yeah. So let's say, okay, let's just two examples. Let's say, okay, a second generation Muslim from Iraq. He goes on a few bad boards. He gets radicalized the wrong way. One day he decides to let off a bomb somewhere, and he kills a few people. Okay. So obviously, how law works, he ends up in prison. Yada yada yada. The problem is though,
and that's where I would stop. By the way, that's where I would stop. It's like the punishment has been carried out.
Sure. Yeah, and if we take a white guy shoots up a school or whatever and kills the same amount of people.
Sure.
Usually, whenever I would state that, usually whenever these things happen and it's a white person, you don't hear about the man's race for a long time. It's the information is not clear, yada, all this, etc., etc. And then as soon as it's clear it's a white guy, it's he had a bad day. He had this and this. And if it's a black guy or if it's a Muslim, it's always, you see, it's because they're from so-and-so place. And it's just a bit strange to me. The narrative doesn't seem consistent, and your logic doesn't seem consistent to me, in that you want to kick out all Muslims because,
I didn't say that.
3 of them? Oh, no, so you wanted to stop immigration from Muslim countries because a Muslim killed some people?
Well, I wanted to stop immigration from Muslim countries for a myriad of reasons, but sure. Well, that's okay.
If an English person killed, let's say there was a trend of 5 or 6 English people committing terror attacks in the US for a few months. Would you then extend that to English people?
As much as an unlikely scenario as that is, I would say that we would need to examine the situation, see the trend lines. Why are these English people coming here? Are they second generation English people that came from Somalia? That their parents settled in
first generation was from London.
I think the point. I think a better way to think, because I thought about this. If the United Kingdom was a war zone that had been embroiled in war for many years, because Somalia, because the areas that these places are in, they have been riddled by famine, by war, by many different conflicts that have killed millions of people in those respective countries, in Syria, in Somalia. We're basically, if the United Kingdom was basically a war zone that had basically wasn't even a state, it was a failed state, then there would be talk about stopping immigration from that certain country just because we don't want that violence to come over here. And then I don't know if that was a talking point during the Troubles in the United Kingdom. Because there was a ton of violence that was happening in the United Kingdom and all across Europe just because of the Troubles.
Well,
sure.
To a lesser extent, I have 2 problems with that. Is, for one, the US caused most of the problems in these countries where these people are mad at the US, and I can't really be overly amazed that they're getting radicalized to hate the US. It's kind of expected. My second point was that whenever Trump did the Muslim ban, he didn't ban Saudi Arabia, even though Saudi Arabia was mainly, people from Saudi Arabia were mainly responsible for 9/11. So it's kind of strange to me.
Right. Well, people from 9/11. Okay, this is something that got Pat Buchanan canceled for saying 9/11 wouldn't have happened if we had stricter borders. And more importantly, you're right. Saudi Arabia owns a lot of the United States government and a lot of corporations and wields a lot of influence over American governance. So that's a reason as to why. Also, they haven't been embroiled in a civil war as of the last 40 years, unlike a lot of these other countries that have or that were going to be banned.
No, they've just been funding the opposition.
Right, exactly, which makes it so much better, right? No, of course not. We're in agreement. We're in agreement there. Yeah, we should ban Saudi Arabia too. Screw it. But I do want to mention you brought
banning anyone, but.
Right. You brought up that black shooters are talked about more than white shooters. Did you hear about the shooting that took place in Dallas the other day where 8 people were shot and killed? Or 8 people were shot, one was killed in a Dallas bar.
Oh, yeah, it was a nightclub.
Did you hear about that?
Yeah,
I
I actually live in Dallas, so that's I remember whenever that happened.
I'm not
Okay.
overly familiar with the details, so I'm not going to say
Right.
anything
Yeah,
on it.
he was black. And you didn't hear about it. White shooter in Atlanta. You heard about white guy, presumably the white guy that was in Boulder, who turned out to not be necessarily white. I don't know how people debate about that. Are Syrians white? They talk about it a lot. Um, you heard about that. So I think that there is a little bit of a different ways to look at it. Of the last like shootings carried out in 2019, most of them mass shootings have been carried out by black people. Unfortunately, you haven't heard about that problem. You get here.
Wait, sorry, who was mostly committed by black people? What was mostly committed by
The most mass shootings of the last year here. Most of it is gang violence, right? Most of it is gang violence. Shootings, I should say, shootings that kill more than 4 people or shoot more than 4 people that have more than 4 targets. That's how that data measures it. So that might be unfair in your opinion.
That's completely wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, 66% white.
I'm like I said, I'm calling this from my memory. Could you link it?
Wait. Oh, this is maybe the same thing as. Is this the same thing as? Oh, it's the same thing as yours. Politics. Never mind.
Oh,
It's the
it's
same,
the
right?
link. It's the link that I sent in the Discord.
Well, actually, it's kind of interesting. I'm reading.
I'm reading the methodologies of this. So if I find less than 4 people,
I'm reading this thing right now, which is quite interesting. Massshootings.info. 58% of all mass shootings in 2019 have no known suspect. So
really,
yeah, I'm gonna. That's out of
and see
424 mass shootings.
Could you link it?
Yeah.
That's the other thing is that basically. It's all the mass shooting issue that we have in this country right now is basically driven by the media, and it's basically like if they can, like, because they look at it and they basically kind of ignore what's going on in places like Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Dallas, where I mean, there's not really a target. It's more of kind of like a petty act of violence that these people commit and then end up going to a nightclub in the middle of uptown Dallas and shoot 8 people, kill 1, 21-year-old girl in a nightclub. And then a guy walks into a spa to quote unquote eliminate a temptation of his because he's a sex addict, and then basically, I mean, I heard this point basically like repeated by people like CNN, MSNBC. They say, we know he said that he didn't commit it because of race, but it has to be about race because of these reasons. So it's kind of like we know that even though the guy said I didn't do it because of this reason, and I understand the reason why they think it's about race is because, you know, about the depiction of Asian Americans and Asians in general. But then you have to look at it as in, like, you're basically allowing the conversation to be driven by media conglomerates that are telling you this is the person who did this did not specifically say this, but we're going to tell you that this is the reason why it was committed.
Okay, can I just say, again, we weren't going to talk about these, but my problem was with that is, again, that's the narrative that spun. The narrative that spun for when the white guy's there is, oh look, okay, right, was it racist? That's the discourse. Like, is it racist? Was it sexism? Was it sexual? And then whenever the brown guy does it, it's always, well, obviously we need to ban everything from that country immediately because they're sending terrorists over. So it just kind of strikes me as strange that that's the priority that we're talking about.
Well,
as for that guy, like, I do think it's racist because, again, he does associate Asian women with sexual.
Yeah, and again, I understand that point.
Yeah. Otherwise, okay, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, either way, shooting's bad. Don't do it.
Yeah, of course.
But this whole the funny thing is, this whole conversation started by pointing out how data is easily manipulated based on what variables you choose to exclude or include. What and here's another thing which I don't have the study for. I'm recalling this off the top of my head. Please excuse me, data gods. 65% of all scientific studies, someone was not capable of replicating them. So like I don't want to be.
No, it's a massive problem. The problem I've been trying to be good about the links I've been putting in chat, but yeah, it's a massive problem in the scientific community that there's no funding for repetition studies, and that's part of the scientific process. So obviously that's a problem. Yes.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do as well with the fact that a lot of scientific studies are done by humans, and humans make errors a lot. And, sure, it limits the ability of studies to be done adequately. And that's why we get studies saying right-wing terrorism is the biggest threat, as, you know, Antifa burns down my the marketplace, a marketplace here in my hometown.
Well, you know, my only thing to that is, if you're going to say that the studies are bad data, then you just need to provide evidence that they are. The problem with the Antifa thing is Antifa, for one, to my knowledge, hasn't killed as many people as right-wingers have. Antifa have done some violent stuff. That's perfectly reasonable to say. The problem is, again, they're not an organization. They're not. It's just individuals, and as same with right wingers.
Yeah, they're individuals. You're right. They are individuals. They are individuals that that talk to each other on Telegram or on group messaging platforms, that decide when they're going to have their rallies, that have meetings, and they talk to each other on Discord, and they speak and they plan and they organize as one must organize. So I think that for the most part, you know, they hold everything about organization. They are organizing. Yeah, I got you there.
You caught me with the CEO of Antifa bit.
Well, I think that I do think that they're an organization. I think, like, especially in a lot of studies.
Yeah, you can just. I just say then to like, there's no membership. There's no, like.
Right. Okay. And this is
if they're organizing. If they are organizing, then, like, they're not doing it as a central unit. They're not saying, okay, right, we need to create this narrative, so we need to burn down this courthouse, and we need to do this. And so Antifa generally is in the moment. Like, there's not really an awful lot of foreplanning.
I think that there have been extensive studies done by right-wingers that, not studies, but anecdotes, undercover documentation that.
Are you talking about Veritas?
No, I'm not talking about Veritas. Okay. I don't pay attention to Veritas. But there are people like, I mean, even people go to Portland, Oregon, and they pay attention. And they go to these meetings. They have leaders. People who lead the meetings are leaders.
Oh, sure.
Just because they don't write it down on a piece of paper that says, "Hi, my name is David. I'm a member of Antifa Portland, Oregon. Tonight, I'm going to go and lead a group of 6 people to blow up a courthouse." You know, that doesn't mean they're not organized. It just means that they're not publicly organized. It just means that they're not documenting.
Antifa's more of an idea.
No, it's not.
Antifa is a, well, you could have said that the US was Antifa during World War II.
No, you couldn't.
I mean, by definition, you could. They were being anti-fascist. It was anti-fascist action.
No.
Come on.
No, it was anti-German action. It was. I don't think that people really understand this about World War II. Is that a lot of the guys fighting the Nazis had very favorable opinions of Germany.
Sure.
Yeah. And I don't think.
I'm a consequentialist. If the things they do end up being anti-fascist, then they have committed anti-fascist action.
Fair enough. Sure. Yeah. Whatever. Whatever. Who cares? Okay. Yeah. The dudes that didn't believe that women should have the right to vote, they were anti-fascists.
Oh no, they weren't good people in that way, but sure.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't condone every Antifa member doing whatever they do. I'm just saying.
My favorite thing that they're doing right now is compiling lists of people to dox, and they put Vosh and Destiny on the list.
Who?
Oh no.
Destiny had like a 4-hour live stream with some people, and there was this fat, ugly person that was working for anti-fascist action, and she was talking, or he, I don't know how it identified. They were talking about how they were a part of, or knew of this list of doxes they had, and it.
To be fair, like your robot voice thing again. Robot voice. Robot voice.
Yeah, you're cutting out.
I don't know what to tell you. My internet sucks.
Okay,
I guess you guys can talk if it's still doing. You don't need to.
Okay, now it's better. You were talking about the person that got doxed.
Yeah, no, they're building lists of doxes like they do. It's a lot of people on the list, and I get it just prove any light of Mao Zedong.
You getting this too, PG?
Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that.
Oh dear.
I did understand what he was saying. It was basically like but should we go ahead and switch gears? You left.
Oh, yeah. All I'll say is on the docs list thing is like, yeah, docs lists have to be done very carefully if they're done.
Oh my god!
I don't endorse them. And honestly, the people who are doing them need to be vetted to a massive extreme in whatever community is doing them. Because
you mean like organized? They need to be like organized.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're building. They've got a company name and everything. They've condensed. No.
Yeah, they formed their 501c3.
You got them.
Antifa Incorporated.
Oh dear.
Okay.
The best lobbying group.
All right, so
I'll say they're an organization when Antifa starts lobbying Joe Biden. How does that sound?
I mean, that's fair. Whatever. I mean, we just have different definitions of organization.
Yeah, it's just mine says the government's. That's fine. I'm sorry, shit. I apologize. Continue.
I'm trying to find a different topic that we can go ahead and jump to.
Well, someone asked me a question. Red, White, and Ben asked way earlier. I don't believe in rapid change. Therefore, don't you think that like rapidly banning abortion would be against your principles?
Ooh, we're going to talk about abortion now?
No. I'm just answering. No, absolutely not. I don't. Yeah, God. Just answering this guy's question about rapid change. Yeah, I think that changing something so rapidly that instantly banning abortion would probably be bad. We need checks, and we need support for young women who are afraid of having children or having a kid. Firstly, we need to promote a lot of different things, but I think that there are things that should be done before absolutely banning abortion. And some states are already making those moves, and a lot of states already have things in place. So I think I'm pretty consistent about my whole idea of being against rapidly changing the social fabric of a nation, which for some reason just doesn't make sense to a lot of people.
And yet you want zero immigration.
See, the thing about that is, and I'll touch on this. I know you don't want to discuss it, so we won't discuss it. The whole thing about that is like I absolutely loathe and hate how it's basically like they basically want to solidify like abortion is okay. There's not like 15 other kinds of like ways to prevent yourself from having a baby. And what I absolutely cannot stand is the fact that a lot of people want to use abortion as a legitimate form of birth control.
Okay, come on. We said we wouldn't discuss it, and now you're saying it, and now we have to discuss it.
Yeah,
it's kind of
30 seconds.
Like, oh god.
No, I don't have any. I don't have any comments. I mean, I think I think that contraception in general has. I guess I should come out and say, like, I'm truly an anti-liberal. I'm not a fan. I'm not a big fan of democracy. I don't think equality is the ultimate end goal of a society. I don't think progression is even like possible in the way that many people think about it now. I don't have the Whig view of history. I don't believe that history is always progressively getting better and that we're bettering ourselves. I think that society is arguably getting worse when it comes to moral principles and foundations of the bedrock and everything. And I think that this is why we have so many fundamental disagreements, is because at the core issue, at the core values of ourselves, like, you favor liberty and equality overall, I favor other things, and and someone in chat is saying that,
like, I only value the American values of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I'm sorry. All right, no response to that. That's fine.
I mean that's yeah. I guess we can move on because I know we literally said we didn't want to go
fine.
down this road. Let me go ahead. Do we want to discuss like international? Let me go ahead and just read chat because they've been having their own debate while we've been having this discussion. Do we want to?
Hey guys, I'm sorry, I was gone. I had no response because my mic was muted. I didn't hear what he said.
It was basically yeah. Actually, Ted, if you want to repeat what you said.
Yeah, I just said, I'm sorry to hear that those are your values. I personally just believe in the American values of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So I'm sorry that your culture is so different from the American culture.
I think that I think that the truth is, I do value liberty a lot, but I think we value a different type of liberty. I believe that in this libertine view of liberty that we've developed over the last 100 years in America is not what Thomas Jefferson talked about. It's not what Hobbes talked about when he wrote about what it meant to be free. It's not what Benjamin Franklin believed in, or George Washington. It's not what, you're talking about, the foundation value. You brought it up, so you can't say, well, those are dead white dudes who are wrong too, so you're also wrong. I mean, because that's not a fair argument, logically speaking. So I think that it's actually you who is not in line with the values of the American foundation or what America stands for. So you can say that, like, I love America, but not the values America stands for. I think the values that America stood for and stands for has drastically changed, and I have a deep love for my country. Regardless of its value problems, that's part of being nationalist. I want to make it better. So, be snide all you want, but
what values do you hold that you consider libertarian?
What libertarian values do I have?
For the love of liberty, yeah.
I love liberty. I believe that ultimate freedom is found in peace and in prosperity and in order. What do you mean? That is an answer. That's what I believe. That's what liberty to me is. Liberty to me is peace and prosperity, being able to do that stuff, being able to pursue peace, pursue prosperity in an order manner. But liberty at the destruction of virtue and order within a society, that is not real liberty. That is decadence. That is decay. I'm not a fan of
the greatest liberty.
that. You think that okay, yeah, I agree, we should all just shoot each other in the head because liberty. That's the logical extreme. That's the logical extreme, by the way, of what you're saying.
I mean, no, there could be consequences for your liberty. I would just say that we're not going to agree on this. I don't understand your concept of what liberty is. I asked you for what you believe it is liberty.
I told you.
And you just said, order and values are good, and we should be able to free to pursue those values.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that I'm not a tyrant. I don't believe that there should be top-down control. I don't believe that there should be sorry, the chat distracted me. I don't believe that people shouldn't be allowed to have freedom of speech. I'm a huge fan of freedom of speech and everything like that. But I'm not, like, an example is, I believe that pornography is justifiably banned, and that would still be not an infringement on liberty. Well, libertine liberty it would be an infringement on, but it wouldn't be an infringement on the American value of liberty. And I'm not necessarily for banning porn. I think it's unpragmatic and impossible, to be quite frank, but I am for restrictions on that specific topic. But,
can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Can I ask I just want to ask what your ideal form of government is, because if you're not for like top-down government and you're anti-democratic, I'm curious as to what your model is.
Well, I guess when I said top-down, I meant like an iron fist autocracy. I didn't mean like top-down in the way we have it now. Like I feel like I do.
There was something you said earlier that kind of did make it sound like. I mean, I kind of listened to it and I was like, so are you for like authoritarianism or something? Like, but
well, I'm certainly not like. What even is authoritarianism? This is a problem we're going to be. What is, well, I mean, democracy is inherently authoritarian. We as a people put all of our power into the people that we elect. Technically, we extort our power onto our elected representatives to do with which they please to do. And there might be consequences for that because we live in a republic, but nonetheless, it is the perception of democracy, which we have the perception of checks and balances, because the Constitution is nothing more than a piece of paper that everybody agrees to follow, and that could go away in an instant. And so I think that every form of government is inherently authoritarian and everything else is wishful thinking. I'm kind of like a neo-reactionary in that sense, like the Dark Enlightenment type stuff.
Of course, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I think that there we'll find a lot of agreement. I mean, I like taking things to their logical extreme, The Electoral College is based and red-pilled, by the way.
I was literally thinking about it. I mean, do we kind of want to move on to maybe like the Electoral College or even statehood for certain kinds of states?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. So, I mean, basically, biggest thing about it is, I mean, what is the Electoral College justified in our day and age? Basically the argument is that like it's 250-year-old, I mean, not or less than 200-year-old system that was basically made to justify slavery in certain areas. So should we keep it? I mean, do we go on from it? Do we go to a popular vote system? Do we expand the number of electoral votes that we have to make it a little more representative?
Do you want me to go first, or DC? Do you want
to please go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect. Okay, so I believe that the Electoral College is fundamentally undemocratic. It could be fixed very easily, but for picking a president, it denies the popular vote, which goes against democratic values. And anyway, so that's fine. The way to fix it is pretty easy. You just either make it so that you either make it representative to the population, so you just fix how the votes are distributed to states, or you make it so that whatever the popular vote picks the president, and then you can just you can do the representatives the same. We'll let that stay. Fundamentally, that comes back to the Senate as well, which isn't representative to the population, which is another problem. But we'll ignore that for now and just say that, yeah, I believe the Electoral College is both a problem and a threat to democracy. All right.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't, I don't care about democracy.
Yeah, I know you don't.
I don't think that the popular vote system is I don't think that the results would worse. Trying to achieve this ultimate form of equality is disastrous for actual policy and actual statecraft. So, I mean, if you want to go like, hey, I mean, it might be a ruined society, but at least everybody got to ruin it together. Hooray! It's like, okay, sure. You about what'd you say?
Based.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sure, whatever. Like, if that's what you believe, that's what you believe. And I mean, you just admitted, I guess.
Well, no, I think society would do much better the majority of the country is democratic, and Democrats tend to do better policy. So,
well, the country.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going back. Now we're going back. Hey, whoa, dude, whoa. We were talking about how much I hate America because I don't believe in its founding values. What about people that want to get rid of the Electoral College? Electoral College is a founding value of America.
Founding values have changed all the time. Like I was making a joke with the founding values, but like genuinely, like the values can be changed. Like slavery was once a founding value. Like it's kind of difficult to.
Well, slavery was.
Oh, don't say it wasn't. Come on.
It was not a founding value on the piece of paper that was the Constitution.
Oh, okay. That's something to say. Well, the amendments, the Constitution has been amended however many times, 20 something, right? I mean, it can be changed. It's not really. Yeah. And also, just to stay on the historical perspective, the reason the Electoral College was created during the days of horses being the fastest mode of communication. Like, so if you wanted to vote for the president in your state that was so and so far away from DC, you had to vote for who your elector was, and then your elector would go to DC and vote. So it's an antiquated system.
Well, is the United Kingdom an antiquated system as well?
The parliamentary system.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, the first past the post part of the UK system is flawed. Yeah, I don't like it. There are better ways to do most kinds of democracy. The UK system's better than the US in that, well, there isn't massively disproportionate votes distributed. Like being born in England doesn't give you like more of a vote than being born in Scotland.
But being born in California doesn't give you more of a vote. Each person gets one vote.
I don't know. They get one vote, but their vote is proportionally worth less. Because of how.
Well, yeah. But they still have the same amount of rights and the same voting
ability. They have the same amount of rights, but their votes
they could just move to Wyoming if it's so important to them.
Well, why should they have to?
I think because that's the system. That's the system, and the world isn't fair.
So if everyone moves to
Wisconsin, democracy is cringe. Read some Aristotle.
Oh, don't be okay. What's Aristotle's thing with democracy was mob rule, right? That was his critique.
Sure.
Yeah. No. I like mob rule. Mob rule's great. Like that's the point. We want people to decide their own futures.
There's this one book that you should read. It's called I can't remember exactly the name. I think it's called Crowds. I know that it was a very influential book talking about the psychology of crowds and how I'm looking at my Kindle app right now.
No, like mobs can be stupid. I agree, but in general, they make better decisions than
they don't. They don't.
No, not better. Sorry, I would prefer they made decisions for me rather than the elites.
Yeah, I don't know if I like Aristotelian elitism. I guess The Crowd: A Story of the Populist Mind is a book written in the early 1900s, which was very influential on a lot of leaders within the 1900s.
So if you want the elites to rule, who are the elites?
Can I finish?
Sorry, go ahead.
The crowd, the psychology of a crowd, this applies both in riots, this applies in democracy. They are not, it is not logical. It is not driven by reason. It is not driven by anything that, liberals find inherently good or like scientific or anything like that. It is driven by emotion and feelings and stuff that you've said you're against or said that I've been using and put it in a negative light. So I think that crowds kind of go against what that idea that mob rule is best goes against what you've been saying throughout the rest of this debate.
Okay, no, I can hold that. I can hold that in content though, because I can say that, okay, in general, my views and my come from what I see as the best for the most people possible. And sure. I agree, sure, mobs can sometimes make the wrong decision. That's, yeah, sure, Trump proved that for me, even though he wasn't democratically elected. But the point is, like, we should have got Bernie, but then the mob chose Biden. I disagree. The problem is, I have to hold that as like a belief. I have to hold that as an axiomatic belief, because otherwise I have to give up hope. And then the problem is, I hold that as a belief, and then I think, okay, if that's my goal, how do I want to fix that? And my way to fix that would be education, or like just generally, there's plenty of ways to fix that. Yeah, mobs, people are smart. Mobs should, and you
No,
can make people smart.
But the point of this book, and it's proven throughout reason, and also there are studies in this book that seem fair. I mean, it's a whole book.
Yeah.
I really recommend you read it. A Study of a Crowd, Popular Mind. That it talks about how actually, even if they're educated, people, when in a crowd, become dehumanized and they act in stupid ways. And I think that this is actually, you can extrapolate that idea much further now in the age of social media, because everybody's so interconnected that people don't act with reason. I mean, you see the stupidest things on Twitter from the left and the right. And
Yeah.
And I do want to say that the mob didn't choose Biden. The mob was manipulated by the mob was manipulated by the elites to choose Biden. So that's.
Well, I would really contend that democratic elections are the same as riots in how the mob acts.
Well, that's just an example of riots. A crowd forms a riot. Because when a crowd gets together, they dehumanize one another and they act immorally. That is what I meant. Not that a riot is the same as democracy. I just mean crowd.
So I don't see it. So
riots and democracy both.
So why apply it to democracy?
Because it's applicable. It's people together.
But they're not acting like the person's putting time to think. They individually make their votes. They're not thinking, "Oh crap, I need to go along with the crowd. I need to do this. I need to do that."
No, that's exactly what people think. Actually, a lot of people think that.
No, I'm not
that's why we're so polarized.
But you can have smart people in that crowd.
Yeah, but my point is, this book demonstrates pretty substantially that that's not what happens when a crowd gets together.
They're not going to listen to because the thing about that is, you say there's going to be smart people in that crowd. Well, are they going? Yeah, you're going to have smart people in that crowd. They're probably not going to be doing the. They're probably not going to be doing that. I mean, if we're talking about mob rule, I mean, I saw firsthand basically that whenever I went to a protest in Dallas, and I got obviously, like DC said, like I mean that this always doesn't apply to riots or protests or anything like that, but I watched with my own eyes. It's like, you know, I walked with this crowd from the police department of Dallas all the way over to downtown Dallas, and whenever we got to downtown Dallas, they basically just started a few people just started to assault police, throwing rocks, bottles, glass, whatever. And then that ends up causing other people to say, okay, so since that person's doing it, we're going to start doing it. And that's basically what mob rule ends up doing. And whenever it comes to politics, elections, it's basically, and especially, and again, I kind of agree with what DC was saying about social media, it's very much driven by social media, because whenever you look at social media, it's always about emotional appeal. Emotional appeal is basically the biggest driver of a lot of these people, because they look at, you know, the immigration crisis during Trump. They said, I don't want these kids in cages. I don't want, with his reaction, Trump's reaction to the George Floyd riots, and then the deployment of federal forces into the streets of America, a lot of people were just, they were driven by what they were hearing on social media more than they were actually thinking of it themselves. They were thinking about it themselves. I'm not saying that they're not. I'm not saying that they're sheep or something like that. But whenever you get an emotional event, and especially during a year like 2020, which we can all say that was a very fucked up year, I mean, we can kind of look at it, and that basically ends up having people drive themselves to think that they really but I think you kind of understand what I'm saying.
I have a question for you, PG.
Go ahead.
Do you value democracy? Do you value equality?
I value democracy. It's just whenever you say equality, I think I think a little bit differently. I'm not saying that I don't.
Equal rights, equal
I
rights, equal rights.
I I think a lot of people can basically agree that equal rights are are a good aspect, but I don't think that that should be the end all be all of our society. I kind of
Oh, sure.
I think because we obviously have a lot of issues that we need to fix, especially whenever it comes in terms of civil rights. But I also think that whenever it comes to things, uh, at, and this is whenever it comes to the intentions behind the people that are behind some of these movements. That's kind of why I kind of don't get behind it because I somewhat lean a little more liberally whenever it comes to social issues, but I also think that I basically think that if we want to achieve a better society, it should be and I'm again I sort of lean a little bit libertarian whenever it comes to this, but uh, I think a lot of people should know what the fuck they are doing in their lives instead of just expecting that everything is going to be done for them. Because I don't think that, and then that's whenever a lot of these people come in and say like, okay, well we should do this for them because that, and I had a conversation about this yesterday. A lot of people want policy conclusions to a lot of issues that we have. They want policy. They want the government to basically step in and say we need to fix this issue, or something like that. And then they don't look toward charity or spiritual conclusions or something like that. Like, and I'm not even spiritual. I'm basically saying a lot of people want the government to basically solve every issue that we have right now instead of solving it themselves and solving it together as a group.
All right. I'm not. I mean, I could probably push back on some of that, but honestly, I don't see the point in a lot of
Yeah. I mean, what do you value the most?
Me?
No.
Oh, okay.
Personally, I value equality of opportunity above all else. I believe every man, woman, and child is born equal, and they have the right to live their life to the best possible extent, and that under all circumstances, like they should be able to decide and not have their life influenced by outside factors.
Sure.
And personally, I believe that. I mean, yeah, that sums it up. Everything I believe comes from extrapolating that.
Okay. Fair enough. We should.
Yeah. Yeah, I want good things. Right? I'm sorry.
So you know that's impossible, right?
In what way?
I mean, no one's going to be.
You're being very pessimistic there. Come on.
No one's going to practically be equal, or not everyone is.
Well, okay. Let's say I concede that. Then I would just say, well, I want the best possible world. Let's try and get there, and if we make it, we'll probably make some improvements along the way.
Road to hell.
If we don't end up with the best possible world, that's fine. We will have improved a lot of people's lives.
Yes.
So being pessimistic it's not really an argument to me.
Well, it's not pessimism, it's reality.
Well, yeah, same thing. No, not really.
Okay, so now who's the pessimist? It's you. It is you, not I. I'm not a pessimist. I am very optimistic. I'm an optimistic.
You're very fearful.
I'm not fearful.
You're very afraid of the Muslims and.
I'm not afraid of the Muslims.
The Democrats and the radical left and all that there.
I'm not afraid of. I mean, I'm afraid. I don't think I'm afraid. I was writing in my journal last night. I need no concern. I mean, I was saying last night, and I can't even remember because it was so bloody late what I was writing about. I said, I fear not only for myself, but because I fear for no one else, but because no one else will. but it is well with my soul. I am at peace with all of this stuff. I am deeply religious. I don't think I'm afraid as much as I am metaphysically speaking.
I have watched
I am concerned. I am concerned, though. I am concerned, sure, but I don't know if I'm fearful. I think I rest my all of my issues. I don't want to evangelize to you guys, so you guys get what I get.
You sleep easy at night, basically.
Yeah, actually, like a baby.
Do we want to discuss anything else, or we've been streaming for nearly 2 hours? Do you guys want to wrap it up?
I just want to check what your. Is there anything else interesting what you said? The space thing, climate change, and statehood. That was the other ones you wanted to talk about. But
yeah,
I'm ready to wrap up whenever you want.
I mean, I can talk for a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's fine.
A video to edit, but that's about it. I guess since everybody listed off what they value the most, I feel like I should as well. And I guess I kind of already touched on it, how I'm different from you guys in the sense that I value a different type of liberty, a liberty that is ordered. So I would say that the political compass, you guys all know the political compass, obviously.
Yes.
You have to be under a rock to not know what it is. The political compass was first described to me actually in 9th grade, which my first experience with it was by a law professor that taught my 9th grade private school, where I went for like 2 years, which was lovely.
I really hope he was using that. I'm sorry.
He wasn't a law professor, but he was a lawyer.
Okay.
But he was using it to describe, in its actual term, he was describing the concepts of libertarian.
What voice again?
It happens. It's very frustrating.
Okay, I think you're a little bit better now.
Every time too long.
Never mind.
Oh my god.
The fourth quad.
I don't know why it doesn't do this for like 30 minutes and then it's like, oh wait, no, now I want to work.
Say that I value am I good? No, I guess not.
We'll give it a moment.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. How am I sounding?
Okay, now you sound good.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening, guys. I'm sorry. I would just like to say that I value an ordered society and family, and I guess I said it at the beginning. I believe in securing family units and family structures, because I believe that is the bedrock of all society, which is like super big, but I like a very grandiose idea. But I think that if you have a family units get together, and it gives people purpose more than anything else in this world, I think. And I think that we're seeing, as the family unit dissolves over the last couple of years here, the last few decades, the last centuries, 2 centuries, 1 century, I guess, we've seen that deaths of despair and a feeling of angst has increased drastically. So I think
I would say that. Yeah, I would say that's not really a symptom of families falling apart. I would say it's a symptom of a larger problem.
Which is?
Well, the answer is capitalism, but I'm not going to say that. Let's say social issues to a certain degree, and the prominence of monopolies taking over, and a lot of degradation of infrastructure and other parts of the US, such as let's say if you lack access to healthcare, then all of a sudden you're more likely to be in poverty because you don't have healthcare. And
well, I think that. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think that that's a very modern view.
How so?
I mean, like, because people were literally, and I hate to sound like literally, but people were in their day-to-day life in the past suffering and physically and torment, and I mean things have been much worse. I mean, look at the Dust Bowl. Grapes of Wrath is a fantastic book I love a lot, which is weird coming from a conservative, right? Because I'm a different type of conservative. But I think that people Um, sure, I think that the the problems have changed. Sure, capitalism might suck and that people can't get healthcare, but people weren't able to get healthcare in the 30s either. But it did suck, but people still felt purpose in a lot of ways. Now they killed themselves for different reasons. I think maybe the 30s isn't the best example. Yeah, maybe the 30s isn't the best example. But in the past, though life had been hell and hellish and sluggish, people still had meaning or purpose, and I think that we've stripped that from a lot of people. And I don't want to go Ted Kaczynski mode with materialism, but materialism is a big problem.
Well, women used to have a lot of mental issues, but they were all given cocaine or lobotomized because of their hysteria. So I would say it's like historical examples aren't really great because there's plenty of examples of a lot of depression and anxiety. However far back you go, it's a human thing to do because we're very social animals.
Right, but I think that I think that you can't deny that, especially among children, especially among younger people, even now older people, 30-year-olds, that they're feeling much. And I use older people because when we talk about children and suicide and depression, we normally think around like 14 or something. But I think that we're seeing the effects of modernization affect people much differently now than on a mass scale. Whereas you're talking about people getting lobotomized in the past, I don't think that was as mass as maybe you believe or as you lead on to believe.
No, I'm not. I'm really thinking that was a symptom.
Tech kind of said something a minute ago where he basically said the answer is capitalism, and
he said that.
Yeah, he did say that.
What did he say?
You said the answer is capitalism. Whenever you said, well, why is the social degradation going down?
Like that's what it's come back to for me.
Yeah, and what I really wanted to say to that is like, because I'm not going to really get in. I mean, unless we are. I really think, and a lot of people can really agree with this. I wouldn't even say it's capitalism. The one of the symptoms is capitalism, but it's basically crony capitalism because it's basically, and I mean, this is kind of like taking both of y'all's points and putting it together. It's crony capitalism, and then it's basically the modernization of everything that we're looking at right now. I mean, we never expected that we would be able to, 40 years ago, we never expected that we would basically be able to do what we're doing right now. We're basically talking to each other through a sophisticated net of electronics and streaming it to over a dozen people on a platform that allows people to talk about various things. I mean, there's billions of videos on this website alone. And we didn't expect that we would be able to do this 40 years ago.
Right.
So it's a lot of unchecked development, and we don't know where to go with it, and we don't know what to do with it.
Right, and I do want to say to that, you're correct. We don't know what to do, and we don't know how to react. And human, you can believe human evolution. I'm unsure, though. Whatever.
It's much too small time frame for evolution to have any effect on this.
That's exact. I think I missed most of what you were saying there, but
sorry,
yeah. But this is all going so quick. The human body is not capable of necessarily adapting to this sort of social interaction so rapidly. It's not the natural state of things. And so that's a big problem, yes. But I would like to remind you that I believe that the natural state of capitalism is crony capitalism.
That's true. Are you monkey pilling us though? Like, this is too advanced.
Am I monkey pilling? I don't think we should return to monkey. No, but I think that there are things that we could. There are things that that meme was always kind of lost on me because I was like, wait a minute, the monkeys are right. We should. I like.
I was like, are we really talking about returning to monkey?
But I think that we don't need to return to monkey. We don't need to go all out drug style. Like, we don't need to stop using cell phones and stuff. But we need to return to, and this is where we're going to disagree. We need to return to human tradition. And you say tradition for the sake of tradition is bad. I say tradition is there for a reason, because over hundreds of years.
I'll give you an even better take. Okay, I think you might agree with this.
Okay.
I think that returning to tradition would doom us as a species, not because of the culture, but because eventually something's going to happen that we aren't going to be able to deal with, and so let's say eventually there will be an extinction level event, and humanity, if they're not advanced enough, will not be able to survive it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not a Christian. I believe in the rapture. No, I think that like climate change might be real. I don't know the science. I'm not informed enough to really debate about it either. I think that maybe it would be most beneficial to act like climate change is real and just get carbon emissions down through rational means. And extinction level events are obviously real: meteorites, volcanoes, all of this stuff. But the fucking sea could open up and swallow us whole. But I think that I think that even in a tradition society, we would still be best equipped to deal with that sort of extinction level event. So I don't think we do agree on that.
I mean, if we return to tradition, like give me a year you think that, say, American tradition was good.
Oh, I don't think that American tradition has ever been. Good. I mean,
so why it's been, that's not tradition? That's just
it's been better. The ideas. Oh god,
no, who's being autistic?
Who's being autistic? Me? Like way too specific.
Optimistic.
Oh, optimistic. I was like, I'm not being autistic. How ableist of you. I think that America, I don't have an exact year. There's always been problems. If I say like before slavery, you're going to be like, well, but what about slavery? And if I say like after Roe v. Wade, you're going to be like, well, what about this? Obviously, there's never been a perfect time. Human perfection is impossible. There's my pessimism again, or whatever. I think that we just need to reestablish the family as the bedrock of society, maybe like pre 1960s minus Jim Crow, like before we had a world that was so
the internet.
Well, the internet's fine if people know how to use it. I'm going to have kids. My kids aren't going to have. There's not going to be a TV in my house. I'll have my computer monitors because this is how I work. But I don't see a need for TV. I don't see a need for children to be running around at the age of 4 with iPads. I think it is child abuse stuff. So that's my extent of anti-technology. But that's for physical reasons. Metaphysically speaking, though, I'm fine with the existence of these things. I'm just not fine with the way we metaphysically think about family structures and the way we think about society and the way we're hyper individualistic and we don't care about each other and we don't care about our brothers and sisters within the nation, our people. Nobody has people anymore. What is a people? Nobody even has it. Nobody knows. I'm of Irish descent. It's like, yeah, but what does that even mean? It's like you need a community, you need a nation of people. I think
those people are Americans. Let's not lie to ourselves.
I was talking about Americans that say like, oh, I'm Irish, and we might be American, but people don't act like it, and I think that that's a problem of like being the dominant culture worldwide is American culture.
That's.
Well, it's undeniable that the culture of the diplomatic class is inherently American.
Damn those American elites.
Yeah.
I don't see you with here. We're not going to.
So
we can take it.
Yeah, I was just rambling for 2 minutes.
We don't have to get into this conversation, but this someone in chat actually kind of brought this up, and I've actually been thinking about this too. What are your thoughts on LGBT people?
Well, I should start off by saying I have a lot of good friends that are gay, and I have family members that are gay, and I love them deeply. I don't have, I don't hate people for, whatever. But I don't think that it's good for a society. I don't think it's a natural state of things. It's obviously a sin. And so like my view on this stuff is really like not mainstream. It's off the table. And a lot of people, in a lot of ways, you'll get in trouble for saying what I just said.
Honestly, like the only thing about that is like I'm I'm not going to get offended by it. I mean, I don't know about Ted, but like
I'm not
the
offended.
way I kind of think about it, because you've been saying about like canceling and all that, they can only cancel you if you let them. Like if you
That's not
just,
true.
I mean, yeah, I kind of get that
I
too.
think I think that, well, I mean, I do have my family members, direct family members that are gay. Two of them actually. Two of my sisters are gay. And so
Same here.
I understand the I guess the blight would be a good word to use, but I think that the blight that gay people have to deal with, not that
Oh, okay, okay. Sorry, I thought you were going
yeah.
to call them. Yeah, sorry.
No, you just assumed the worst.
Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, communication issue. Thank you for clarifying that, because I didn't want to send off the wrong impression. But so I understand that, but I think that it's not the best for society. I think it promotes decadence. And like I said, it doesn't promote family values in a lot of ways.
So do you believe
It's unnatural. No, I think that a lot of people nowadays are choosing to be gay or transgender because it's,
on an unnatural point, literally thousands of species have displayed homosexual
yeah, that doesn't mean
behavior.
but we're not.
Why is that not natural? It occurs in nature. It is natural.
It is, yeah, but mutations occur in nature as well. That doesn't mean that it's natural. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's what that's natural. Evolution is a natural process.
I mean natural as in a metaphysical sense, that this is how humans should be.
Oh yes, sorry.
Yeah, I don't mean natural like it. So I hope
yeah. Okay.
gay people can have families. Wow.
So you would say that every person who's gay or trans chose to be gay or trans, yes?
No, I'm saying that a lot of people nowadays are choosing that, but I think that it is something that is predetermined in a lot of ways.
Do you think it is possible to choose to be
gay?
To be gay, yes.
I think that it's possible that you can act in homoerotic ways, and then neurons will rewire themselves. Yeah, that's like basically.
One of the things about it is like, and I kind of understand what DC is saying, basically, like because a lot of the people now are basically saying like, well, you know, this is okay, this is okay, this is okay. And then that's one thing to say, you know, it's okay for people who do feel like that. But then now it's basically being ingrained into the society that we're in right now, to where a lot of people sometimes you like see it so much and they can't really tell, especially younger people. And then I know I know a couple of people who basically switched from identifying as one gender, then identified as the other gender, and it was kind of confusing to me. But and I'm not saying that
because you're a bigot.
Yeah, whatever.
Sorry.
But no, it's okay. But I don't know, because I don't know if it's influenced by media, by social media, by a lot of different kinds of things. But it's not that it's wrong. It's just that what I'm afraid of, not afraid of, but just what I think about it is that sometimes these people are being influenced by what they see and what they hear, and then they think about it. They're like, am I this way? Am I that way? And then they kind of question it, go into that, but then they kind of come out of it like a year or two later, sometimes even after they get their assignment surgery, and then they say, you know, that was a mistake.
The problem with that,
but that's not everyone.
Detransition is incredibly rare. The thing is, again, it's not like people are like deciding to change genders. It's a long medical process.
Yeah, I know.
To do anything, to get hormones, it takes years. To get surgery, it takes even longer. It's incredibly drawn out, and yeah, that's just the point. You don't make a mistake that easily. It's incredibly rare to detransition.
I don't even. Is it even possible to detransition? Like fully?
There are steps that can be taken, but like it's.
Well, I mean, if you get your cock chopped off, it's not really bringing that back.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it is. It's like what is it? It's like some incredible number, like 1 in 1,000 trans people detransition.
Right, and I believe that, but I also believe that it's very weird that girls now groups, and this has been observed in high schools, that if one girl comes out as trans or something, and her group of friends for some reason are statistically much more likely to also come out, you could maybe try to explain that away because, oh well, that just means that everybody is more accepting and more confident, and that's why there's more gays. Should I say that there's more LGBTQ plus?
I think perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think that makes much sense, considering historical trends and the.
No, this trend's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, no, I know, I agree, but I think that it's becoming more prevalent because not only because it's becoming
legal.
Yeah, not only because it's becoming more legal. Obviously, that has a lot to do with it, but it's also being pushed in a lot of different ways. But at the end of the day, what I was saying, and I've kind of lost my train of thought here, because I was looking at Twitter for a moment. I think that gay people are real. People can be gay. I think it is something that takes place in the brain. I don't know if it's genetic. I don't care if it's genetic. It's how people are. But
it's difficult to make it work genetically, right? Like the gay people aren't making more gay people. It's kind of the point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, right. So if I guess that, for lack of better terms, it would be like a mental thing.
Well, I wouldn't call. Yeah,
one of them is identified as a mental thing. It's called gender dysphoria, and that's specifically for trans people. But with gay people, I at least right now, from off the top of my head, I cannot think of anything that they would identify as more of a mental thing in accordance with gay people.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically with transgender people, that is a mental illness identified as gender dysphoria.
No. Gender dysphoria is a mental illness. Not all trans people have gender dysphoria. And the thing with that is, even if you do have gender dysphoria, the treatment is through transition.
Yeah. Sure.
I will provide medical journals if you.
Well, I mean, I can. There's medical institutions in San Francisco that help detransition. There's books that have been written on it. There are multiple ways to deal with gender dysphoria and medical or mental issues. So I would say that the solution to, or what you were saying, the solution to gender dysphoria is transitioning. It's not necessarily the case.
What's another one?
What's another one? What?
What's another way of dealing with gender dysphoria?
Therapy.
And at the end of that therapy, what would happen?
People are no longer attracted to the opposite sex or the same sex. No longer have the I guess the
I'm just going to
attraction towards other people.
One moment.
Here we go. We're going to start talking about data again. I mean, it's very difficult. I'm not saying that it's successful most of the time. Most of the time, it's not successful. These therapies are not successful in a lot of cases, but that doesn't mean it's not a real solution to a lot of these problems.
Okay, there's one.
I think you're completely ignoring what I just said.
Oh, no, I heard what you said. I just
ignoring. Association Statement on Gender Identity, in which transness is validated. American site has validated social stigma against transgender people is cited as a serious cause of harm, and reparative therapy attempts to suppress one's transness and force them to live as the gender they were assigned at birth is medically invalid. Well, that's their medical opinion. There's other medical opinions that people have.
That's okay. Never mind. We're not going to get anywhere.
Oh, is that a study?
Study.
Oh, great. Well, that's their observation of the data. Other people have different observations.
Okay.
People come to different conclusions by different things. I mean, I know people. I mean, being gay is a sin in the Christian church. I know people who have had homosexual feelings and who have turned away from that life because it's a thing.
Well, I feel sad for those people.
I don't know why. If they want to, they want to do what they want to do.
It's the same thing with Milo. Like, goddamn.
I don't know anything about Milo. Yeah, probably better off. His husband's probably better off without him.
That's the funny thing. They're still roommates.
Oh, that is weird. Maybe they're de-gayifying each other. Like they're both going at it. Well, I shouldn't say that. They're both like going at no longer being gay together. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess agree to disagree. Once again,
sure.
I side with against the science on this one.
Well, then I get to say you're objectively wrong, and we can move on.
Okay.
Well, I can say you're objectively wrong because I want to.
Check your chat.
No, I don't want to. I mean, I just think you're wrong. I don't think there's a you can cite this. I can show. I mean, it's tough to find on Google because they're few and far between. But there's books. There are people that have spoken about it, and people that operate in San Francisco clinics that work. For some people, it's not easy, but people can stop the retraction. It's neurological, man. It's neurological. It has a lot to do with that. And we can also prove that, watching pornography, the more intense the pornography, the higher, or it changes your neurological circuits and changes the way you perceive sex, and it changes what type of sex arouses you. So if you go from watching rough sex to BDSM, then it gets further and further, and then potentially rape fantasies, and then transgender fantasies, stuff like that. Stuff changes. I'm not comparing rape to transgender, whatever. I'm just saying that your sexual attractions can change. What arouses you can change.
Sure, it's environmental. Sure.
Yeah, right, and it has something to do with that. So I'm saying it's possible. I'm saying it's possible. Yeah. And you can say that I'm objectively wrong, but I think that that's just bogus. The Chad facts feelings don't care about your facts versus the virgin facts don't care about your
feelings. Yeah, I'm sorry, my facts don't care about your feelings. Yeah, it's all out there.
All right, Ben Shapiro's.
I'm the opposite, actually. I'm the college liberal.
Oh yeah. Okay, so
you're Ben Shapiro in this situation. How does it make you feel, bro?
It feels great because I've never seen Ben bring up a study.
Tet is now on Suicide Watch.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Have you ever watched Ben Shapiro? He cites a lot of studies.
Oh yeah. Oh well. Okay. To be fair, I know I was never impressed by him because everyone says he talks fast, and that's just.
No, Ben Shapiro is a blithering idiot, in my opinion. But
oh yeah, okay, we agree. That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, finally an agreement.
Hey, we've agreed on a lot of stuff. I think.
Yeah, actually, you have. I think you agreed more times than I actually expected y'all would.
Oh, the nature of human conversations is that, especially in situations like this, is that we are drawn to the contentious points. And I'm glad that we moved away from immigration because in policy in general, we've talked more about the metaphysical. I keep using that term. Sounds gay. The metaphysical more than policy.
Do you want to say another word than metaphysical?
Philosophy.
Okay. Philosophical.
Philosophical. Yeah, the philosophical. Thank you. I don't know why that escaped my mind.
That happens to me all the time.
But I've enjoyed the latter half of this conversation a lot.
Okay. Actually, I have too. I do appreciate that you guys have been on here, and even though it did get a little contentious, I do appreciate that you guys were still able to stick around and actually have the conversation all the way up.
Right. So, and the way I look at this stuff, and I tweeted this the other day, and I think it's so true, and I wish more people had this feeling about stuff. I have no hard feelings towards anyone I ever debate. I had a guy I was debating once, say that we need to, and he was a liberal after Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death, and he was like, if they try to put a conservative on the Supreme Court, we need to storm the Capitol with guns. And I was like, yeah. It was a liberal too. He's a progressive Bernie Sanders supporter. He's young though. He's young, so it was funny. But I think that, and we got in a pretty heated argument around stuff like that, and it got pretty personal. But even in that, I still consider the guy like I'm okay with him. I don't hold any contempt for him because the way I look at internet arguments, especially as I view it as a as like a part.
Sorry, 2 seconds.
Okay, as I view it as like a part-time job, sort of, with my channel. It's like a WWE storyline in the early 2000s. How these two like WWE characters would hate each other and talk about how they're gonna rip each other apart in the ring, and then afterwards, the next storyline, it doesn't even affect them because they've moved on, and it's it's a storyline. So I don't hold stuff. I'm pretty apathetic, I guess. Maybe
Yeah.
I have some problems.
Yeah, I actually, I can actually agree with that too. Because, like, I try to have conversations all the time. Like, I talk to more liberals than I actually do conservatives, mainly just because of the area that I live in and just the people that I kind of associate with. And every single time, I always try to be, as basically just as open-minded as possible. And then whenever I tell them my views, they tell me their views. And I mean, I've had people basically tell me to go fuck myself just because of the way that I think, because I disagree with them. But I mean, it doesn't, even whenever it goes to that point, I never hate them for it. So it's
right. Yeah, exactly. You can't let that stuff get in the way.
Yeah,
conversation or like deep contentions. You can't let that get in the way of being able to talk to one another.
I think that's one of the reasons why we're in the position that this country's in right now, is because a lot of people just don't want to listen to each other.
Sure, yeah. People have always had their preferred means of. I mean, the late 20th century was really, really special in the sense that the lack of the greatness of bipartisanship was huge. Like huge, astronomically huge. What the situation we're in right now, where everybody's polarized, is actually the normal throughout human history and throughout American history. People would kill each other on the Senate floor or whatever. Not literally, but there were cane fights, there were duels. Obviously Hamilton and Burr come to mind. Andrew Jackson had a bullet in his chest for 40 years of his life because he dueled so many people. So political polarization has always existed, and we're coming out of this really weird phase in American history where the country was united around external threats. And now that those external threats have gone away, the biggest issues, according to liberals, is white supremacy. The biggest issue, according to conservatives, is radical liberals. So at the moment, the biggest issues for Americans in general are each other. So we're more concerned about each other. We view each other as more existential threats than anything else, which is why we're so polarized. And the same was true throughout all American history, just about talking about the Yankees versus the Dixies and Dixie Pride worldwide. And obviously pre-Civil War, post-Civil War, there was still that contention. And so I think this idea that this political polarization is at an all-time high, it's not at an all-time high. It's just exceedingly uncommon for where we're at now.
This isn't exactly the all-time high.
Yeah, especially for you.
I think it's at the
blowing up cars or something.
I wouldn't even say it's at an all-time high, because I mean, if you know American history, this has basically been the most. Like if Facebook existed between 1800 and now, like I mean, there'd be tons of other years, basically like 2020. It's just that in our history books, it kind of doesn't look like that because it kind of was skimmed over, basically.
Right. The lack of history that people know, even historians don't know history. And
what?
Extensively. I mean, there's just so much of it.
Yeah, that's right.
Just like indeed, this is the first time, and that like it kind of circles back to my point that I said earlier. Basically, like we've never been in a time to where basically every recorded second is a part of history. Because back in the 1800s, I mean, it was basically year by year, and I mean even decade by decade. But right now, I mean, every waking second, like every tick of the clock is history because something in the world is happening, and then people are reporting about it on Snapchat, on Facebook, on YouTube. Like shit is happening, and that's what. And we're in a point now to basically we're in the middle of it, and we don't know how to take it.
Well, a lot of the world feels like that, and I think that a lot of people have always thought about things in that way. I'm reading the book called The Great War, something undone, Europe undone, or something. It's a fantastic book, and there's a segment that they talk about Paris, or the kind of like pretext of Paris and what was going on within the Parisian government, and how there was this huge scandal that everybody was worried about. And it's so scandalous, in fact, that the main liberal's wife, he was some like sex addict or something, and he had been remarried, and his ex-lover had been like leaking letters, basically politically exposing him about some stuff, and it made him look bad. And his current wife went into the newspaper and shot the editor of the newspaper. And Paris was like talking about this like it's all anybody could talk about in France. Meanwhile, the Archduke was killed like 2 weeks ago, and little did the people in Paris at the time know that they were about to enter one of the most brutal, wars in all of history. And so everybody always thinks that, this is history. Everything's happening so much. In 100 years, people aren't going to care that Donald Trump may or may have not said that he thinks that the people that died on Normandy are cowards. People aren't going to care that Donald Trump said that he thinks John McCain is a coward. It doesn't matter. But COVID-19, I think, is actually something that will be remembered, because I think it is a big inflection point. So I think that COVID-19 is like something that will matter 100 years from now. I don't know if everything else really does, to be honest.
Because it's gonna matter now, but then whenever historians in 100 to 200 years look back on us, like that's not going to be something that they're going to care about. They're just going to go, what the hell is a Twitter?
Right. Well, Donald Trump, I think Twitter will be remembered as like a kind of like in the similar way that the public square is remembered now. Something that doesn't really exist but was influential in the past. But look at throughout all of history, or American history, which is basically all of history as far as I'm concerned. My chauvinism is showing. The people, the presidents that are remembered had moments of extreme greatness. Abraham Lincoln, Washington, they all had crises that they dealt with adequately. And then there's like people like Teddy Roosevelt, who he didn't really have a crisis as much as he willed himself into a position of greatness. And Donald Trump, Obama, Bush, Clinton, all of them have failed drastically at willing themselves into a position of greatness. And we'll see how Biden does, though I don't have high hopes. And I think that these people, the presidents of the last 5 decades, are going to be as remembered as somebody like, I don't know, the presidents between number 8 and number 12. Like nobody knows who those are. We all know who Abraham Lincoln is and like John Adams is because they're founding fathers, but nobody cares about like anyone else, to be honest. There's like a lot of presidents that nobody studies. I think that that's the moment of history that we're in right now when it comes to presidents. Obama will be remembered for being the first black president, and that's just about it.
I'd say maybe the Great Recession. It's just response to that. Otherwise, that's all he's going to be remembered for.
You said moving the what?
Great Recession.
I doubt it. I think the Great Recession will be remembered like the .com bubble. Nobody really even talks about it anymore. Obama won't be remembered. Trump won't be remembered. I'm sorry to like smash your illusions, but take the red pill. Wake up to reality.
What illusions do I have?
No, not you. I'm talking about people in chat. People that think that like this idea that a lot of people hold that this is it. We're in a moment of history. The guy that got stuck in a tub. Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers the guy.
Fuck. Probably FDR or JF Kennedy. or Obama?
They're really trying to hammer down, saying that that Joe Biden with like if he goes through like with this stint with this with this dealing of COVID with this $3 trillion jobs program that they're going to go through, basically that if he gets all of that done within the next 4 years, that he's going to go down as one of the biggest changing presidents, similar to like FDR and LBJ. I mean,
No,
I'm not saying that's at least a piece that I read.
LBJ is another good example of somebody who willed himself into greatness. LBJ and Teddy Roosevelt are great examples of these people, because they went into office. They really knew how Washington worked, and they were capable of maneuvering adequately and getting things done. Something that Obama didn't do, and something that I don't think Joe Biden will do. FDR passed like 7 landmark legislations within his first week of office. Joe Biden has twiddled his thumb and maybe passed a stimulus check that gives $1,400 and some bailouts to Democrat states and big businesses, and that's just about it. He won't be remembered as great. He might be remembered for the senile. Yeah, Joe Biden.
Hasn't done that much great stuff, but he's done a few things that are quite good.
Well, yes,
Joe Manchin is currently the problem.
Yeah, sure. Joe Manchin might be the problem, but LBJ would destroy Joe Manchin. I mean, LBJ would make Joe Manchin bend and make him do what LBJ wanted.
I like Bernie's philosophy on this was something I definitely agreed with, but unfortunately, we don't have Bernie Biden, and he is old and with us on a lot of things.
Yeah. But if there's anything else that y'all want to add, I mean, we've been streaming for 2.5 hours. Y'all want to wrap it up now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Check out my channel, DC Perspective. I appreciate you guys listening, enjoying, maybe learning a thing or two, insulting me in the live chat. I saw you, Lanny. Thanks. And thank you for having this conversation with me. I got a bit heated at times. No hard feelings, though. I'm just generally a loud and rambunctious and annoying person. So no hard feelings.
No.
Yeah, and I appreciate that both of y'all were able to, like, even though it did get heated, I was just like, wait, hang on, let's cool it down. But I do appreciate that you guys were able to have a mostly civil conversation.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Thanks to DC for talking to call me. Ha ha ha.
It's funny though. I swore I was never going to do stuff like this.
Yeah, but I mean, it was interesting.
Yeah, no, you said you didn't want it to be a debate, and then I guess as it got closer, it was just kind of like, I guess it was acknowledged that it was going to be a quasi debate, and I was just like, okay, I guess that'll happen.
Yeah, I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I watched a few of your videos. Didn't you say you wanted to debate? No. So what I wanted to say was, you can find me on Twitter, but mostly I'm on Discord. So if you're on PoliticsGaming server, you can join my server. We have a space. Come and be mad at lefties. So come on down. Otherwise, yeah, thanks for having me on. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, no,
cab. Ha ha ha. Let's go.
What'd you say?
Trans rights. A cab. Through BLM in there.
Right. Oh, it's actually a calf. Come on, get it right. All caps are
a cab.
Yeah.
No, a calf.
With an F.
Okay.
Aww.
I hate cops as much as the next guy, to be honest. I'm not a fan of cops.
Yeah.
At least whenever I was younger, I mean, I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, cops are pretty cool, and then now I'm just kind of like, okay, some cops are assholes.
Right. Well, cops suck.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself. I'm gonna ask y'all to just stick around for a few more minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this live stream, and then I'll be back and I'll talk to y'all.
That's fine.
All right, for those who are watching right now, thank you all for joining in on this live stream. I do appreciate that everyone was mostly civil in the chat. I really do. I like to do these live streams. So again, if you guys want to see more live streams like this, do leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you want to see more podcasts, if you want to be a part of this podcast, go ahead and join the Discord server, and then we could actually set something up. I do love to have different kinds of opinions on this podcast, and I'm trying to do this every week. So usually between Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to be shooting to have these live streams up every week. So again, thank you to DC Perspective for joining me today. I really do appreciate that we were able to have him on. I've been watching his content for a little bit. Tetrime, even though he doesn't have a YouTube channel, he has been on Discord for a little bit, and I've had plenty of conversations with him, and I do appreciate that we had a very differing discussion between DC and Tetrime. So again, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you guys in the next podcast. Thank you all for watching this, and I'll see you guys next week.